Welcome back to part 2 of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. It's back with KB and X. And X, man, we got to get into this. We got to get into possibly the best series going on in the NBA, the most entertaining series going on. That would be between the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks came out victorious last night, 109-108, off of a CJ McCollum game winner from about the free throw line. X, I'm not going to lie to you. This warms my heart. But you know what warms my heart even more? The fact that it's the Knicks. Man, I got to go on and say what I got to say. I heard Knicks in 4. I heard Knicks in 5. I heard it all. But we got to speak about the Atlanta Hawks, man, for a second. CJ McCollum been a dog this series. He's been a straight dog. He's been going at Jalen Brunson. He's actually been going at the entire Knicks team. And he showed no fear pretty much in every time that he steps on the court. He feels like that he's the best player on the court. And that includes better than Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Even Jalen Johnson for his own team. So I look at last night. The Hawks led as much as, I believe, by 17, 18 points. The New York Knicks, they stormed back like I would expect them to. They stormed back. But here's where the thing that Knicks fans and Hawks fans need to realize. Nickeil Alexander-Walker still has not played well. That should be worrisome for the Knicks because if he does, and I feel like he will figure it out, the Knicks are in some trouble. Now, I feel like that Jalen Brunson, while as great as a player he is, this is no different than what people had to, I had to endure all of this for years. This is no different than what teams were saying as far as, were not just teams, but fans were saying about the Hawks for years. Trae Young is a small guard. You can't win with a small guard. So why is it now so different that people feel so confident that they can win with Jalen Brunson? And he has more, I'll say, quote unquote, help than Trae Young had in his entire tenure in Atlanta. Jalen Brunson, while he is a great one-on-one player, it does change the way that you are able to attack. But I got to reserve some of this smoke for a couple of New York Knicks players. Mikal Bridges. Brother, they invested five, I'll say it one more time, 5 first-round picks for you, and you went out there and put up a Tony Snell stat line, brother. That's terrible. I don't care what the situation is. There is no way that Mikal Bridges should be out there scoring 0 points. And then, not only that, on the most important possession of the game, when they needed a stop, you couldn't even, I would have thought that he would at least have taken that assignment because him being a long defender, I would have thought that he would have made it much more tougher on CJ McCollum to hit that shot. Now, granted, give all the credit to CJ. He got to his spot. He made the shot. But I feel like that between Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, that ain't enough, bro. Like, that ain't enough. I don't care about Josh Hart's rebounding ability. Bro, if I'm the Hawks, that's who I'm trying to make shoot the ball. Those two together, you're going to have to show me that you can actually beat me outside of Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. I give OG Anunoby credit because he was on one last night. He bailed them out so much in the late seconds of the game with 2 clutch threes. He bailed them out. But I got to give that smoke to Mikal Bridges because of the fact that they invested so much. You didn't even see Luka get that much compensation in return for his as far as draft compensation for when he was traded. So not only did they invest their future, mortgage their future to get you in the building, you go out there and put up the same numbers that I put up last night. Yeah, this ain't looking good. I don't care what people say about New York. You can say, "Oh, they still got this series in the bag." Y'all don't sound confident saying that. You'd be lying to yourself if you felt that the Knicks still are in prime position to win this series. They're in trouble, and I think that everyone knows it, including Mike Brown, including Jalen Brunson, including Karl-Anthony Towns, and including everyone who is a Knicks fan. If you are honest with yourself, you know that you are in trouble because, if they go out and lose game 4 tomorrow.
It's over.
Yeah. It's over. It's over, and I hope they know it too.
They'll go back to the Garden and win, but they're going to come back to the A and they're going to get sent home.
But see, the funny thing is, though, X, the Hawks have shown that they aren't scared to play in the Garden. The Garden has mystique, but they've shown that even when they're down, they ain't never out. That comeback in game 2, you know what I'm saying? That just showed they got fight. They got heart. So you looking at it like this. You had a chance to go up 2-0. You even had a chance. I seen some people saying that, oh, we were a couple plays away from being 3-0. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But you got to finish the game. You got to go out there and play the game. Nobody going to just give it to you, because I've seen, Mike Brown be critical of, officiating this series. Bro, you cannot say that when you have Jalen Brunson on your team. And X, what we didn't even talk about yet is the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns got away with a blatant hold on Dyson Daniels on that last possession of the game that wasn't called. Just like he got away with a blatant illegal screen on game 2 in the clutch moments. So I don't think y'all want to get into this whole officiating thing, because we've seen that the whistle is different depending on who you are and what team you play for. The whistle is completely different. I think the Knicks have just been underwhelming this series. That's just my opinion. I think that outside of game 1 in the fourth quarter, this has been one of the most tightly contested series that we've seen in a while. And I definitely think this is the most entertaining series that we got going on in the playoffs right now.
I'll have to agree with that because of just how short of margin these victories have been so far throughout all 3 of these games. Yet this couldn't happen to a better team being the New York Knicks, because you talk about Mikal Bridges and the donuts that he put up out there last night. I want to talk about the people who are responsible for firing Tom Thibodeau, who probably are the same people who are responsible for trading 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. But I want to talk about those people because Tom Thibodeau got you to the Eastern Conference Finals last year for the first time in 25 years. You had gradual improvement nearly every season under Tom Thibodeau as your head coach. There was stability that was right there. There was grit, there was grind, there was toughness that was right there. It screamed blue-collar New York City type team. I don't even like the Knicks, but even I was growing to be a fan of what they were doing last year. And him getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, and yes, I know they had that game 1 collapse against the Pacers, but that team last year was also different. They were just on a mission. We saw the comebacks that the Pacers had against the Cleveland Cavaliers and just around before that too, KB. Comebacks that shouldn't have happened. But he still got you to a place you hadn't been in 25 years. And it was not good enough for you. Nope, we got to let Tibbs go. But you had no real plan of replacing him. The plan started off with you calling around the league to other coaches who already were employed by other teams like Jason Kidd and Ime Udoka. And of course, their teams shut it all down as they should have. And who do we end up settling for? Mike Brown. And Mike Brown's not a bad coach, but Mike Brown's not the coach that you needed to replace that team at this point in time. If Steve Kerr had been available, I understand that because it's Steve Kerr and what he's done with Golden State and the fact that they could have had him in 2014, even though I don't know how his career would have played out if he had taken that job then. But you settle for Mike Brown, who a lot is being exposed now. I'm starting to understand now the way he uses his timeouts, KB, the way he does situational basketball, the way he does his substitutions. I'm understanding things now. I'm understanding now why LeBron James did not win any championships the first time around in Cleveland. I'm understanding now why Mike Brown didn't last a full 2 seasons with the Los Angeles Lakers. The only thing I don't understand is why the Sacramento Kings fired him, but I don't understand too much of anything the Sacramento Kings do, and I don't care to try to understand too much of what they do either. But Mike Brown is the person that you ended up settling for, and this team has looked out of sorts throughout different times of the season, where we've had questions of, okay, what's going on here with Jalen Brunson? He's a good player, but he doesn't look like the player he was last year. Karl Anthony Towns is not consistent enough, and Mikal Bridges is just out there throwing up all over himself. You can argue that the most consistent New York Knicks player this year has been OG Anunoby, which good for him. But if OG Anunoby is your most consistent player, you're not a championship contender. So even if somehow the New York Knicks do end up winning this series, Boston's going to be waiting for them. And I know that Boston had a bad game 2 performance against the Philadelphia 76ers because VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey and even Paul George all showed up to play. They're going to take care of business against Philadelphia. I expect this series to go no longer than 6 games, possibly 5. You got Boston waiting for you, and they've been waiting for you because of what ended up happening last year. That might be an all-time Jason Tatum series we're getting ready to see if that ends up happening. But now, because I initially picked the Knicks to win this series in 7, I thought it was going to go to full distance. I thought it was going to be a very competitive 7-game series. Now I'm not so sure they're going to win this series. And it's not going to hurt my heart if they don't win it. I support the Atlanta Hawks, and I want to see them do well. But I'm very curious to know what's going to happen in New York if they do lose this series and go home in the first round. Who's going to end up having to take the blame for this?
I'm not gonna lie, because like you said, I don't think that Tibbs was the problem. I really don't. I think that he was the scapegoat because of a collapse against the Pacers, but I don't think that he was the problem. And to be honest with you, I know Becky Hammond just said this the other day. You cannot win if your best player is a small guard who cannot defend. That's the reason why I say, like, it depends on who you are and if people like your style of game. Because Jalen Brunson does it in a different way. He didn't get the same blame that Trae Young, but Jalen Brunson has been getting exposed this series for his lack of defensive ability and his ability not to stay, that he can't stay in front of anyone. So my thing is, why is this energy a little bit different now that we're talking about the Knicks? Because Jalen Brunson, like I said, hell of an offensive player. Give him all his credit. But when it comes down late games, see, the problem that the Hawks present to the Knicks, they have multiple bodies that they can throw at Jalen Brunson. Because it's not about stopping Jalen Brunson. It's just about if you beat him up enough in the game, throughout the course of a game, if you wear him down as far as with the amount of defensive pressure that you put on him, he ain't gonna just hit shots forever. You gotta put long pause. You have to surround him with guys that can defend and switch. Because like I said, I feel that what they're trying to do is, and X, you may have seen this last night also, they've been trying to target CJ McCollum in pick and roll situations. The same way that CJ McCollum targeted Jalen Brunson in pick and roll situations. The only problem about that is Jalen Brunson, when he's targeted, there's not many people you can help off of, as opposed to when the Hawks, if you target CJ McCollum, the only problem is you have versatile enough defenders like Jonathan Kuminga, you have Dyson Daniels, you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You have guys that can defend pick and roll situations. Now, the one player who I'm surprised has not taken over more in this series is Cat, because he is a mismatch for the Atlanta Hawks. Whether people admit it or not, he is a mismatch because his ability to shoot the 3 ball has made him a problem. Because with him being able to shoot the 3 ball so effectively, anytime he pump fakes it, it's gonna go for it. People are gonna jump because he's that good of a shooter. He's one of the best big men shooters that we've seen in the league ever. So the fact
KD, I see you still going with Cat based off of talent. I'm not surprised that Karl Anthony Towns not being able to take over because, in my opinion, he just don't have that dog in him. And he's proven that he just don't have that dog in him. And it's been proven going all the way back to Minnesota. They had a game in which they had a series against the Memphis Grizzlies in 2022, and I'll never forget this. Karl Anthony Towns looking so lax during the post-game press conference. And one of the questions that was asked to him, like, how do you guys rebound and how do you regroup from this? And his answer was, go home and drink some wine. So no, I'm not surprised that a guy like that is not taking over the series, even though you would make the argument that he should have because of his talent, what he brings to the table, and the fact that the Hawks don't have anybody out there that can match up with him. I'm not surprised at that, but I can understand why you would say that because just based off the talent of Karl Anthony Towns alone, yes, he should be out there doing that. But that dude don't have that dog in him, man.
Yeah. And also, I'm gonna tell you another thing that's also very glaring. The Knicks bench has been a disappearing act in this whole series because not only do you feel nothing when Jose Alvarado, Jordan Clarkson, those guys come in the game, the only player that comes off the bench that I would honestly feel like, and depending on if they put him in the starting lineup or if he comes off the bench, is Mitchell Robinson because he is a mismatch for the Hawks because the Hawks don't have Jock Landale at this backup center position to at least be a body in there. Yeah, I mean, like you said, man, I've honestly heard all the excuses in the world. They are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA at this point. There's no reason to me to believe that based off of any evidence that y'all are serious championship contenders, even being the 3 seed in the East, there is nothing. Because I'm looking at them, even with the bad game that Boston just had, there ain't no way in hell they'll beat Boston. No way in hell that I could even pick them. Like Boston, if they really wanted to lock in, if they were to play Boston in a 7-game series and Boston really wanted to lock in on this year's New York team, I'm not talking about last year, this New York team this year, they could gentlemen sweep them, and that's just being generous. I can honestly see a situation where they could get swept.
I'm gonna do you one better. If somehow Philadelphia was able to pull the upset of the century and win this series against Boston, and if somehow the Knicks were able to win this series and it was New York and Philly, I wouldn't rule out giving Philly a chance to being able to win that series.
Listen. If Philly wasn't going against Boston, I would give them more of a chance. Just to advance. But it's because of I feel like Boston is going to get it together. Boston they got too much talent over there. And I'm looking at the Knicks right now. They got problems over there. And Mike Brown, he's at the head of those problems because of the fact that I don't feel like his rotations have been honestly that great. Because when I'm talking about the non-Cat, non-Brunson minutes, they aren't winning those. They aren't winning those, especially when you have, like I said, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, hell, even if you want to say Jordan Clarkson, those three out there on the floor, besides OG Anunoby is the only guy that I give a pass to because, like I said, had he not bailed them out last night, it would have been even worse. I do feel like that the Hawks did a good job getting out early. Their only thing that they need to work on is maintaining those good starts because we saw it going into halftime. They laxed. They eased up a little bit. We saw it even in the third quarter. They're losing too many key moments, too many pivotal moments to put their foots on their necks because that game could have ended up a completely different way last night. Had, certain things not happened the way it did. That game could have ended a completely different way. So I think that the Hawks just have to work on maintaining, get out to a good start, but maintain it. Quinn Snyder, I think he's been doing pretty good with the rotations last night because, like I said, we saw a point in time where Jonathan Kuminga was subbed in to close the game because of Dyson Daniels' turnover issues and his inability to be effective as far as shooting the ball on the offensive end. So you got pieces to play with. But X, I gotta tell you something that still bothered me. The number one pick, still, like you're the number one overall pick, and I'm talking about Zachary Richardson, and you're not even in the playoff rotation.
KB, last week hold on, it's bothering you, but I told you last week, Zachary Richardson, just sit over there and hold that clipboard, brother.
Yeah,
that's all we need you to do.
Because outside of game one, in those little 3 minutes that he played, where he went 0 for 3 with 3 rebounds, he has not seen the floor at all in game 2 or 3. I'm not mad at it because, like I said, what has he done to show to me that he deserves to be in? Because you got guys like Gabe Vincent has more of a role on this team than you do. That says a lot. Brother, you are the number one. You were the number one overall pick. And you may be out of the league very soon, sooner rather than later. because I told people a long time ago, the reason why I say that Zachary Richardson is what he is and where he is right now. There is not one specific attribute on the basketball court that he excels in. He does a bunch of things okay, but there is not one skill that I can honestly say that he does extremely well. Because what he told you that when he was in France, that he was like one of the best athletes in France, and now he's just a guy. He is just a guy right now. He's not a knockdown shooter. He's not a lockup defender. He doesn't slash very well. It's nothing. He doesn't play make. So what can you honestly say that he does on the floor that you could look at and say, yeah, I see why they have him in the rotation. I honestly see why he is not in the rotation. I give Quinn Snyder credit because he could have very well kept him in the rotation. And I very well could have seen a situation last night where he would have made a boneheaded play that could have gave the game away. That is where my belief is with Zachary Richardson. He benefited from the fact that he was in the very weak draft class, and he just happened to be the best of the worst in the Hawks' eyes, but he was not. Because now that you're looking at it, I'm looking at this team like, man, if they had just drafted Stephon Castle, if they had just drafted
shooter like Reed Shepherd.
Man, I'm looking at the endless possibilities, and now I know I'm playing devil's advocate, but I'm like, oh man, I'm looking at all of the possibilities that even Donovan Clingan would have been a much better option.
But if they had a drafted Stephon Castle, is there a world where Trae Young is still there?
More than likely, yes, because I think that what the Hawks are now would have been perfect for Trae Young because they would have been able to cover pretty much exactly how New York is trying to cover up Jalen Brunson's defensive liabilities. That would have been the same situation with the Hawks. You give him wing defenders that can defend and switch pretty much everything. It helps a guy like Trae Young, who's an undersized point guard. But you give guys like, even if you gave him Donovan Clingan would have helped the Hawks because even with Porzingis on the team made more sense with Trae Young on the team when Porzingis was playing. Because the one thing that Trae Young's needed during his tenure in Atlanta was length and size from the wing and the center positions. He never had that. So now that they have that, it would have been perfect for him. Do I think that the Hawks would have been grinding out games as well? Probably not, because he would have the Knicks would have been hunting him at an even more alarming rate than they're trying to hunt CJ McCollum in switches. But the problem is, they know if they try to hunt CJ McCollum, more than likely you're going to see one of those defenders that I mentioned earlier. I do think that certain guys for the Hawks still got to be better. Jalen Johnson, while you had a near triple double last night, he had a couple plays that I did not like. Those two boneheaded plays that I told you about, X, the traveling just off of nothing. You're bouncing around, you're doing all this, you're traveling. Then not only do you travel, you're jogging back, and you give up a pretty much uncontested dunk to Josh Hart. You can't do that in the playoffs, man, because we're seeing the margin of victory in the last two games has been 2 points total. So this is every point, every basket matters. You can't do that. And to kill Alexander Walker, I think that he has to raise his game up. He has to raise his game because he's too important to what the Hawks do. And I think that CJ McCollum has been the one constant, and Jonathan Kuminga opened a lot of people's eyes. For the people that were thinking that the Hawks made a bad trade, this is exactly why we made that trade. Jonathan Kuminga can be the future, and he's shown that he's effective when he picks his spots because he's super athletic. He can defend also. That has been very evident. He can defend, and he's super athletic, so he deserves to be on the floor no matter what, and he deserves to close games as well. So I'm looking forward to what the Hawks can do tomorrow night, but I think that they got to be greedy. They got to go in the mindset, we got to take both of the games at home and go back to Madison Square Garden up 3-1.
If only the Warriors could have seen that with Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe we're having a different conversation about them right now, but oh well. Glad to have him in Atlanta and around a team that actually is happy to have him there. The last note I'm going to make on this is on CJ McCollum's game-winning shot, there were two New York Knicks players who were not on the floor for that possession, and that would be Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. That just goes to tell you just how much of a defensive liability those two actually were. And it's amazing how Tom Thibodeau was able to do things that covered those things up last year, but wasn't good enough to be able to keep his job. Well, the Los Angeles Lakers and Houston Rockets, they continue their series tonight, KB, game 3. And this has gone in a way that I didn't expect it to go. I'm happy that it's gone this way. The Lakers are up 2-0, and 41-year-old in his 23rd season, LeBron James, is out there looking like the best player on the floor. And before we even talk about the series, I got to take full accountability for something that I've said on this show a couple of times. And I have to apologize to LeBron James because you know that I've said that the Lakers might be better off without LeBron. Maybe the 41-year-old needs to go home. I apologize to the greatest player of my lifetime that I forgot about who you were just for a moment there. Because without him, they're not up 2-0 in this series. And it's just it's not even the numbers that he's putting up. It's how he's been able to control the pace of the game in both of these games that is just phenomenal to me. Now, that's something we knew him to do in Miami and Cleveland anyway. This man's 41 years old, and he's out there doing this. And the Houston Rockets, they are in absolute turmoil right now. Kevin Durant didn't play in game 1 because of a knee injury. He came back in game 2, scorching in the first half with 20. He finished the game with only 23 points, had 9 turnovers, and Alperen Sengun, listen, I still have a lot of belief in Alperen Sengun. I think he's going to be a great player in the league. But things just are not looking good right now. And also, Ime Udoka, who is being thoroughly outcoached by JJ Redick right now. He's a little too concerned with calling people a certain name than actually coaching right now. And I have to wonder, KB, if the Rockets do go home in this first round series, could this possibly cause Ime his job?
I'm not gonna say it's gonna cost him his job, but it's gonna be the end of a very disappointing season. And like you said, man, LeBron, he's been controlling the pace. But one guy I gotta give a shout out to is Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard been hooping. He's been hooping this series. And the fact of the matter is, the Rockets got some problems. Like the fact that they're not getting contribution from guys that they need. Like I felt like I'm disappointed with right now with Şengün's play. I am disappointed because I felt like that he could be so much better, and I've seen him be better. But also, when you look at the moves that they made in the offseason, signing Dorian Finney-Smith to that large contract, and he is basically nowhere to be found. Like that right there showed me, like, okay, I get why you went after him, but he ain't anything of note. And so you look at it like he is being outcoached by JJ Redick. JJ Redick, without 2 of his top 3 guys, is going to battle with you every single game. Kevin Durant, they threw him completely off in game 2. He couldn't do anything. Turning the ball over as much as he did, yeah, he was ineffective. So I'm looking at the guys that I'm looking at to step up would be Şengün, Amin Thompson, those guys. The guys that I expected to see that were doing what they were doing all season. But yeah, the Rockets, man, I don't feel confident about them. As much as I was giving them the slight edge because of the injuries that LA had. Not just because I was just that confident in the Rockets, because I really wasn't that confident in them overall. I felt like they were gonna have hell no matter who they played. But it was the injury concerns for the Lakers that was like, okay, no Luka, no AR. You should have this series pretty much sold up. They've been outcoached. They've been outplayed. They losing the hustle plays. And then the Lakers are getting contribution from unsung heroes. Even DeAndre Ayton's played pretty decent this series. So that tells me, 1, they're being well coached, and 2, that they're getting contributions outside of LeBron because, like I said, while LeBron is still being incredible at 41, he should not have to take on such an offensive, have to be carrying the offense every single night. But he is, though. He's not doing it in the traditional LeBron James sense, but he's controlling the pace to the point where he can pick his spots, still be an effective playmaker, and then he still can defend in certain spots as well. That is the point that I'm trying to make, and that is the reason why I'm looking at Kevin Durant. Like, brother, you got everything lined up perfectly for you to win this series. And y'all, like, I understand you just coming back from injury. That was your first game back. Cool. But what more could you ask for? You going against a weak team right now, considered by everybody a weak team.
He's also questionable for game 3, too. We should note Kevin Durant with an ankle sprain.
Oh, I bet he is. I bet he is.
This is so on brand at this point. This is why when the Rockets made the Kevin Durant trade, I didn't go ooh and ah like a lot of other people did, because it's like, I kind of now know who and what KD is. He's a very talented player. He's one of the best scorers in the history of the game. He's an automatic bucket, but he's not a leader. And he doesn't really elevate teams the way that people think that he elevates teams. It's easy when you're a superstar to go to a loaded team like the Golden State Warriors had and to elevate them even more when those stars are people like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and you've got Draymond Green playing his role, Andre Iguodala playing his role. He didn't really elevate in Brooklyn. He went to the Suns, and you can argue that they got worse in the time with him there. And the Rockets were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference a year ago, with Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun. This is why I have belief in Alperen Sengun, because I've seen him actually play well before. You get Kevin Durant, and things just kind of fall apart here. You go from being a number 2 seed to a number 5 seed. And again, KB, things have not been the same since that whole quote-unquote burn account situation came out. It just looks like there has just completely fractured that locker room. And it's so ironic that this is happening with Kevin Durant, because if you will, remember years ago when Kevin Durant mentioned how with LeBron, there's a drama effect that comes to the locker room? Well, my oh my, how those tables have turned. Because you can make an argument that where Kevin goes, drama follows.
And to be honest with you, outside of his tenure in Brooklyn, what can you say? Like, what can you say? The tenure in Phoenix was not good. So far, the tenure in Houston is not going great. So outside of them possibly going to that, with them going to the second round and losing to the Bucks, and had not been for a Kyrie injury, a lot of people think that they would have went to the finals that year. But
had it not been for Kevin Durant's foot being too big, they probably go to the finals that year.
That's true too. But it was just like, this is why I say that Steph Curry deserves way more credit than he gets credit for, because the fact of it was Steph Curry did it again after he left. He showed that he could carry a team. Steph Curry is one of the greatest leaders, not just in the NBA, but in sports in general, that we've ever seen. But it's not to say that we're diminishing Kevin Durant's talent by saying that his leadership skills are in question, because they are. He looks like he's just a guy that likes to hoop. He loves to hoop, but that doesn't mean you're a great leader. LeBron James, great leader. Steph Curry, great leader. Hell, even you want to put Shea in that category, great leader. He knows how to galvanize a team to get them on the same page. And I think that the Rockets are disjointed right now. I'm not even giving them that much. I'm not even going to go out and say that they're guaranteed to win game 3, because I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't know what Rockets team I'm going to see. Like you said, I've seen Sengun be effective. And like you said, they were the number 2 seed last year. I've seen them. And I think that honestly, they lost last year because their youth stuck out a lot. Their youth stuck out a lot. Their inexperience, you know what I'm saying? And the Warriors' experience showed that's why they won last year. But I think Ime Udoka, he got to be better, man. He really does. Because we're talking about your rotations, not only your rotations, you have to look at it, your schemes. I don't think their schemes are really good right now. I think that they're all just freelancing out there. I think they look just really disjointed. And I think that Lakers are hitting their strides right when they need to, because if the Rockets lose this series, Kevin Durant's going to, if you thought Kevin Durant got scrutinized before when he got swept against Minnesota, oh yeah, he definitely going to get it worse because he got a more loaded team than he had in Phoenix. And the fact is, their roster was pretty good, and they just put you in and they subtracted Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green. Now you look at it like we gave you a better team, a young team. You still can't get it done. That should eliminate who was more important to those Warrior championships. Now, while I feel like the Warriors, they did benefit from having a guy like a Kevin Durant, MVP in the league. Steph Curry showed he put that narrative to bed in 2022. He put that to bed in 2022. So this is why I say Steph Curry is one of the greatest leaders in basketball. Kevin Durant is one of the best players in basketball, but not one of the best leaders in basketball. We can go ahead and put certain narratives to bed immediately. It never needs to come up again because we've seen it not once, not twice, but multiple times since his tenure in Golden State has ended.
You brought up Dorian Finney-Smith. I want to allude more to that albatross of a contract that he is for the Houston Rockets. So far through 2 games in this series, he has been a healthy DNP. He's been healthy. This includes game 1, where Kevin Durant did not play because of that right knee contusion. He's been a healthy DNP. So just to add more to your point of that, and also to the Laker fans who were upset that they didn't retain Dorian Finney-Smith. No, let's thank Rob Pelinka that he didn't go out trying to give Dorian Finney-Smith an albatross of a contract, because that could be the situation that the Lakers would be in right now.
Sometimes blessings come in rare forms. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because that contract is so terrible. It's so terrible because we just talked about a number 1 pick not playing. The contract that Dorian Finney-Smith, you would have thought he was one of the most coveted free agents out there in the market because of him being a so quote unquote 3-and-D player. Not only is he not hitting threes, he's not even getting in the game. So that lets you know that might as well just be a donation at this point. That was
a donation. Please give you his numbers on the season.
Go ahead, give it to me.
Pause. 3.3 points per game. 2.5 rebounds per game, 1 assist per game, and a field goal percentage of 33.3% per game.
And you know why that pisses me off? I feel like I could go out there and do that. And the funny thing is, I'm working a 9 to 5. I feel like I could go out there and give you those exact same numbers. If you ask me to just hit 1 3 a game, I'm pretty sure I can hit 1. I'm not gonna say I can hit a bunch of them, but I can hit 1. So my thing is, the contract does not make sense for the production. But then again, X, to be honest with you, even if you're going off his Lakers tenure, I don't know what he did that warranted him enough to get that contract. Because the Lakers tenure, it wasn't like he was just out there dominating from a 3-and-D perspective, if that's what you're calling him, a lockdown defender that can also hit shots, timely shots. He wasn't even that in LA, brother. Like, he wasn't. I watched. I know you watched. So what warranted that contract?
I was absolutely disgusted at what I was watching too.
I still don't know what made him get that contract. That's the problem I'm having with the whole thing. But hey, you know what I say is, and I said this to you before, desperate teams do desperate deals. They were desperate for a guy that they felt like could bring in some type of veteran presence. They felt like that he was going to be this defensive specialist that also was kind of like, oh, yeah, we can get him to knock down shots when we need him. And for him to get DNPs, especially in the playoffs, especially when they needed some more wing depth without Kevin Durant in game 1 and possibly being out game 3, that's not a good sign. You might as well just say, like I said, you might as well just say that's free money going to waste at that point.
Yeah, I was going to see if Jeff Green had better stats than him this year, but he doesn't. So I won't go that far with things. But yeah, this is really, really bad. He's only played 37 games this year, that being Dorian Finney-Smith too. Now, he spent the first part of the season recovering from an ankle injury that he had last year that he had surgery for in the summer. But even when he came back, the play was dramatically off from what we're used to it possibly being, and he just fell out of the rotation. You have an albatross of a contract and you're not even in the rotation. Man, that That really says a lot about how things are going in Houston, which is unfortunate for them because it looked like last season they were honestly on the up and up, but they panicked and they blew things up because that's pretty much what they did there. You had a good nucleus that you would build. If you still had Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks in Houston right now, I'm not saying that they probably wouldn't have still been a 5 seed because if you equate Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks' injuries in there from this season, yes, probably so. But I would be more concerned about that team right now than I am about this current version of the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, at least you have optimistic. Like you be optimistic. You come off of last year being the number 2 seed. Now you're the number 5 seed in a very loaded Western Conference. I wouldn't look at that as like a bad thing, but I would look at it being more optimistic. I do think that team actually get it done against the Lakers in a more effective way than this team is. This team, like I said, there is no like I don't know how you could look at the first 2 games and still feel good, even going home. Like that's where I'm at with this Houston team. Like it ain't been good to watch at all, bro. Like it has been entertaining. Like I said, game 1, they gave pretty much took it to the Rockets with no Kevin Durant. Then you add Kevin Durant back in the fold, and you just think they're just magically gonna put it together, and they didn't. So, what do you go back to Houston, and how do you look at it as like, hey, yeah, we still got home court. We still got home court. Like you don't have home court if it goes to 7. The Lakers still aren't playing with 2 of their top 3 stars. If anything, I'm pissed. I am pissed. If I'm a Rockets fan, I look at this as like a complete disaster.
I'm going to give you this example. The Lakers are like this right now. They're solid and they're together no matter what. They're out there as one unit. The Rockets are like this. They're scattered and separated. And they look scattered and separated when you just look at them out there on the court. They look scattered and seperated when you look at them out there during timeouts.
Yeah, they don't look cohesive. They don't look cohesive at all. They look like 5 guys just playing open, like an open run. It's almost like an open run, almost like 5 guys. There's nothing that would like if I'm the Lakers, guarantee you LeBron James giving them the game plan on how we need to approach this game 3 with the opportunity to go up 3-0. I guarantee you, because he's seen enough basketball in his career. He's been on the receiving end of being down in a series. He's been on the other end as far as being up in a series. I guarantee you, not only him, but JJ Redick also has seen enough basketball in his time to show the importance of going up 3-0 and basically getting the series out the way with a team that needs to rest and able to get their team back to full strength. Because, like I said, if they wrap this series up quick, you give Luka, you give Austin Reeves more time to heal up, the Lakers are now a threat again. But right now, Houston is not taking advantage of the fact that they got a weakened Lakers team that's playing out of their minds, and the fact that they're not seizing the moment. That's just what it is. They're not seizing the moment. The Lakers are. The Lakers actually are scary because, like I said, they're playing good ball without those guys, and they have a chance to get those guys back if they wrap this series up pretty quickly.
And they could actually get Austin Reeves back if this series does go into a 5 or 6 game series.
That's bad. That's bad. That screams trouble for the Rockets, man. Whether people want to say it or not, are they capable of turning this into a series tonight? Possibly. I'm just not going to be the optimistic one and saying they will because of the fact of what I've seen in the first 2 games. I have no type of good vibes going into this game for them unless they show me something within the first 2 quarters. I got to see it by halftime to give me some type of belief.
Well, it's all going to start with Alperen Sengun and Kevin Durant. They have to set the tone tonight. If they don't, the Lakers probably are going to go up 3-0. Get to some more notes here on the NBA playoffs. Wemby remains in concussion protocol for the San Antonio Spurs. That is not good news, not just for them, but simply just for basketball fans in general, because you want to see your stars out there playing. And he was so phenomenal in game 1, and it just felt like he was on the way to doing similar things in game 2. And then he fell on his face. And when you're 7'4", falling down on that floor is a long way down. And he's in concussion protocol. And the Blazers, they now were able to tie that series up 1-1. Dylan Harper also got a little banged up in that game, and so did Harrison Barnes. We alluded to it a little earlier. Man, that path to the Western Conference Finals between the winner of that series and the winner of Minnesota Denver, it looks different now compared to what it looked like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and honestly, had Wemby not got hurt, we were looking at they could possibly go ahead and sweep the Blazers and get them out the way. Like that's exactly where I was because he was playing out of his mind, and you know, I look at the series completely different now because we already shown with him not on the floor, it's a totally different way the Blazers attack the Spurs. And now you're talking about Dylan Harper and Harrison Barnes also being banged up, which you know what I'm saying Dylan Harper being a crafty guard, be able to probe and get to the paint and also play make as well. I think that hurts them because now Stephon Castle's having to take on a much bigger role. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson having to take on bigger roles now. I think this is a whole different series. We got to look at it like that because, like I said, with the games so back to back like they are, Wemby could miss 2 games. Very well could miss 2 games depending on if he clears concussion protocol. He's definitely going to miss this game 3. So it just really depends, man. I'm looking at this series like the Blazers could possibly steal it if they come out and win game 3 and Wemby can't go for game 4. Let's say he can't go for game 4. I got to look at this completely differently now because if Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, guys like that, De'Aaron Fox are not able to will them to these victories, this could be one of the biggest what if seasons in not only franchise history but in NBA history because they were set up. They are one of the only teams that could give OKC a run for their money. And the fact that they're not full strength because he is that much of an integral piece to what they do. Man, this got to be looked at as one of the biggest what if seasons like ever if he's not able to finish out not necessarily finish out the series, but if the Blazers are to necessarily, let's say they go up going 3-1 going back to San Antonio. You got to look at it differently because we know, these things can swing. The momentum can swing just so easily. And his injury, the way he fell in his face, I said, "Dang, he might actually be knocked out right now."
And this also goes back to the questions that we had earlier in the season when Wemby had a couple of injury concerns. Is the only thing that's going to be able to stop Victor Wembanyama from being as dominant as we believe he's going to be is Victor Wembanyama. And I have to now start the question: is he going to be a fragile player?
Um, well, you got to think about it. Year 1, he had the blood clot. Year 2, he remained pretty much healthy for the most part. Um, I look at the injury that happened game 2. I think of that more of a freak injury, like the way he just happened to come down and fall on his face. Hopefully that won't be like certain things like, a trending thing going forward. But yeah, I think he pretty much showed me that this year he's durable enough to play, at least 65 games for, to be considered for the awards. So I think that hopefully this is not something going forward because man, that's a special talent when he's on the floor. So I would like to see him come back because I don't want to see a team be without their main guy and then possibly be out of the playoffs because of him being out. So but like I said, this does change the series completely.
Now let's get to some more games that are happening tonight, and we'll talk about some games that are happening on Saturday as well. The Celtics and the Spurs, they take the floor tonight in the city of brotherly love. KB, I expect to see a totally different Celtics team tonight. I believe that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will get back to business the way that they need to tonight. The others will show up around them. I don't expect VJ Edgecombe to have a repeat performance as he did in game 2. I think the Celtics go up 2-1.
Yeah, I do too. I expect them to go up 2-1, but I will say though, watch out for Tyrese Maxey because him and VJ Edgecombe in game 2, they went on one of these little benders where I can honestly say VJ Edgecombe for a rookie, he's playing like a vet. He played like a vet in game 2. Now, will he replicate that? I don't know, but Philadelphia is definitely going to be rocking. You got to get contributions from guys like Kelly Oubre. You got to get contributions from guys like Paul George, like who's been a vet in the league. He knows what it's going to take down a team like this because I think that they honestly changed the momentum of the series, and they can honestly swing the momentum their way. If they win this game tonight and go up 2-1, who knows what it looks like, because you're playing without Embiid still. So it's like you're not expected to win this series. You playing with house money at this point. So like I feel like the one thing you can do is go out there and just be disruptive. If you got a chance, like as long as you got Tyrese Maxey back there, because like I said, that's a hell of a player right there. Quick off the dribble, can probe, can shoot the ball. I think that they just have to muck up the game. They got to muck it up to the point where Boston feels uncomfortable, because, like I said, we know one thing about Brown and Tatum. They're just going to keep going at you. They're going to go at you as long as they can, and they have guys that can contribute to that as well. Like I said, Derek White. You still have guys like Peyton Pritchard. You still have guys that like are not even like their main guys, but like even guys like Luka Garza, when he comes in spot minutes, he's effective. So they have depth on their team. But I just look at it like their championship experience, their experience overall should be enough to get them the win tonight and propel them for the rest of the series. But this is a pivotal game 3 for them tonight, because like I said, the Celtics gotta go out and reestablish their dominance. Like they have to, because now you have a team like Philadelphia that feels like they can play. They can play with you. You giving them that confidence with game 2. So now you have to establish that nah, that was just a fluke. Let it be known that that was a fluke. Jason Tatum come out, be aggressive from the start. I feel like he gets to the rim because like Bona is, as much as I like him, you should have no fear going to the rim. You should not have any fear going to the rim if you're Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Go to the rim, get to the line, get this game out the way. That's the game. That should be the game plan if you're going in like the Boston Celtics.
We got the Spurs and the Blazers taking the court in game 3 in Portland tonight. That place is going to be rocking. Believe it or not, I'm going to take the Spurs to win this game. I think that Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox know what they have to do tonight, and I believe they'll take care of business. I think they go up 2-1.
See, I'm gonna go opposite. I think that this is the game I'll give Portland. I'll give Portland game 3. I'm not sure about game 4, because that remains to be seen if Wemby is gonna even clear concussion protocol. But I'm gonna give them a shot in game 3, because I think that Denny has been impressive so far, like in this play. Not necessarily in this series, because I know that they've been throwing different things at him to get him uncomfortable. But I'm gonna tell you, Scoot showed me a lot of promise on game 2. He showed me that a lot of people were questioning him being the where he was selected and where his career was taking off at. Like I think that this just kind of reinstilled some people's thoughts into the fact that like, okay, this is exactly why we invested a top pick in him. I think Scoot could actually swing this series. To be honest, if he is more of an X factor, he could swing this series for Portland. I think that they just have to get. They don't have the luxury of having the type of guys that San Antonio has to swing the series, but they can make the game difficult for San Antonio. Like I said, Stephon Castle, he's gonna do his thing. Now it's gonna be whether like De'Aaron Fox and Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell can take more of an offensive like a load for them, and while Wemby is out, because we know we know what the Spurs are when he's on the floor, but now that he's not there, now it's time to showcase what you guys can do. We seen De'Aaron Fox be the man in Sacramento. You know what I'm saying? We seen Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson be the man, be two main guys before Wembyama and De'Aaron Fox got here. So now it's gonna be one of those things. But you definitely are right. Portland is gonna be rocking, so we got to see, because I'm gonna give Portland a slight edge. It's gonna be a big gritty game, but I'm gonna give them a slight edge.
And on Saturday, we've got some more game 3s that will be taking place. A couple of game 4s too. Game 3 of the Magic and Pistons series happening in Orlando. Orlando surprising some people in game 1. Listen, we've been telling y'all, Orlando is a much better team on paper than they played throughout this season. So nothing they do in this series is going to surprise me, considering that the Pistons offense is so dependent on what Cade Cunningham's able to do. And believe it or not, I'm going to pick the Magic to go up 2-1 in this series. I said the Pistons would win it in 6. This is the second game I'm willing to give the Orlando Magic, but I think they go up 2-1.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Like I said, I think that they came out and punched them in the mouth the first game, and then They dialed it back a little bit in game two, but I think that Orlando, they're playing also with house money because no one gave them a real chance in this series. But like you said, I think that it is very worrisome that so much of what the Pistons do goes through Cade Cunningham because Jalen Duren also thrives when Cade Cunningham is on the floor because the attention that he creates and that he attracts. Like I think that what I'm willing to see is if Orlando can establish themselves on the boards, I think that they'll win this game because they are one of the only teams as far as size that can contend with the Detroit Pistons because of the length that they have. They have one of the most unique teams in the league because of most of their guys being 6'5" and above. So Jalen Suggs got to be on one. Franz and Paulo, they got to be locked in from the jump because if they're locked in from the jump, they can make this a very difficult game on the road for the Pistons because the Pistons don't have championship experience. They've never even, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't have it yet. And so you can capitalize on their inexperience because you've actually been further with your guys. Your two guys have been to the second round. They have not. You know what I'm saying? They're on the uptick, but they're not there yet. So I'm not gonna lie. I even expect them to start doubling Cade. I really do because of the fact that you got to make guys uncomfortable. You got to make guys uncomfortable, and you have to make guys like Asur Thompson. You have to make like not Duncan Robinson, but you got to make guys make shots that are not accustomed to taking certain shots. So I expect them to start trying to get the ball out of Cade's hand early, but I think that Orlando has a shot. I think they win game two. Game three. Game four looks a little different for Detroit because now they're desperate. Going back to Detroit in game five, they're desperate. So this is going to be a momentum swinger right here.
I think it'll be 2-2 going back to Detroit, but I will say this. If somehow the Pistons lose this series, JB Bickerstaff is in trouble, despite the year that they've had. Especially when you got names like Billy Donovan that's out there now, and also potentially if Steve Kerr becomes available, him too. Because these are ready-made situations. These aren't, we have to go in and we have to develop these guys and teach them how to play NBA basketball situations. And if somehow the Magic win this series, I have to question, does Jamal Mosley get to keep his job? It's really up for grabs.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I was actually interested because I saw reports coming out saying that no matter what happens, Jamal Mosley is gone. But I said, yeah, but what if he does go on a run that we've never seen before? And you know what I'm saying? Let's say because I still don't feel like they would get to NBA finals. I'm not going that crazy. But what if they were to get to a conference finals? Are you really still going to be comfortable with just letting him go after they just got to the conference finals? Like,
well, depending on who that star player is that's not happy with him, I mean, that's really going to depend on a lot of things. And of course, I already have my thoughts on who that star player is. I wish they'd just come out and put his name out there. I think it's Paolo Banchero.
I do too. I definitely think it's him.
Suns and OKC take the floor in Houston for game 3 on Saturday. I'm going to say Phoenix in this one. OKC's not going to have Jalen Williams. He had a grade 1 hamstring strain that happened towards the end of game 2. So he is now on a week-to-week basis. I think Phoenix finds a way to get one at home. This is not your prototypical 8 seed either. They had injuries that happened throughout the course of the season, and they were making things interesting there towards the end of the game in game 2. I think they find a way to get this one.
Yeah, I see why you say that. I gotta still go with OKC. Honestly, after watching the first 2 games and I seen Devin Booker's frustration after game 2, I really think that the NBA got a problem. I really do. I think that the way they officiate certain teams and officiate certain players is honestly some of the most disgusting things I've seen like in a long time. And I think that OKC is allowed to play a brand of physical basketball that other teams are not allowed to play. I think that Phoenix, the way they have to come out, and they don't need to leave it in the refs' hands because we've seen that certain guys just have a better whistle than other guys. You got to come out, establish yourself right away because, like I said, with a team that's weakened, because if Jalen Williams is not going, then you need to be out there and you got to make the game physical. You got to make the game. You got a guy like Dylan Brooks. You got guys like Devin Booker. You have talent on this roster. You just have to establish yourself early. Because one thing about OKC, they have that championship pedigree. They have the more than likely the two-time MVP. You got to establish yourself early. You got to make things as difficult as you can for Shea. You have to make it difficult for him because he is the thing that makes them go. You got to make it difficult for Chet. You can't lose the war on the boards. You got to be able to rebound the ball, get in transition, and that's how you're gonna win the game. I think if you get out and you start running with these guys, you got talent like Jalen Green. That's where he excels in the open court. So you got to get out there and establish yourself early. I'm still going to take OKC, but I would not be surprised if Phoenix does what they're supposed to do. They got a shot. I'll give them a puncher's chance.
Bit of breaking news here before we continue with the NBA playoff talk. Just came across my feed. NFL Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor is currently hospitalized after suffering a medical emergency. He's in New Jersey right now, suffering some type of medical emergency. His status is unclear at this time. Man, wishing all the best to him. That's definitely not news that you want to hear.
Yeah, definitely wishing all the best to him. I know that Lawrence Taylor has been like anytime like recent memory he's been in the headlines has been for reasons that aren't the best. But you know, you never want to see people go through that kind of stuff, and hopefully that he's okay. You know, prayers to his family, friends, anyone that has been affected by the situation. But yeah, you never want to see stuff like that happen.
TMZ Sports is reporting that those close to Taylor told them that it doesn't sound like whatever he's dealing with is too serious, but he remains in the hospital at this time. He's 67 years old, so absolutely wishing and praying the absolute best for him. Again, a bit of breaking news right there. Lawrence Taylor currently hospitalized after suffering a medical emergency. We'll keep you updated on that as we learn more information about it, but sending prayers and best wishes his way. Getting back to the playoff talk here, the Wolves and the Nuggets take the ABC slate on Game 4 on Saturday night. It's desperation time, KB. So I'm gonna take Denver to win this game.
Yeah, I don't expect Jokic and Murray to have the games like they had in game three. I think they understand the urgency. I think they understand that they got to get this one to kind of, you know, even back the series before they go back to Denver because, like I say, the one thing you don't want to go back to in game five is a do or die game. With Minnesota, I think they smell blood in the water right now. I think that they feel like they are one of the only teams that can affect Jokic like they can. And I feel like they have no fear right now. So I think that, you know, one thing that Denver has to do is reestablish, like I told you about the Celtics, they have to reestablish their dominance. Jokic has to be dominant. He can't afford to have games like some other players can because of how big of a piece he is to Denver. So I do expect them to get it done. So I think it's going to be 2-2 going back to Denver.
And the final game four that we'll talk about happening on Saturday, that would be the Knicks and the Hawks in Game 4 from the A. I don't know where the Knicks turn from here, to be quite honest with you. I'm gonna say give me the Hawks to go up 3-1 at this point. I honestly think that this series is now officially in favor of Atlanta.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that State Farm was rocking in game three, and I think it's going to be even more in game four because, like I said, Hawks smell blood in the water, and I think that the Knicks, the panic button is starting to set, like the panic is starting to set in even more. They do realize that if they go down 3-1 going back to New York, like it's a whole different series at this point. I think it's already a different series because the Knicks don't know what to do when it comes to the Hawks. They don't know how to guard them offensively. I mean, I'm sorry, defensively. They don't know how to attack them sometimes offensively because of the fact that they have some players that are just basically ineffective in this series. I am going to pick the Hawks 3-1, go up to 3-1 because of the fact that there still has not been an answer for CJ McCollum. There still has not been a way for them to, you know, cover up the liability of Jalen Brunson on the defensive end. And I feel like that The Hawks aren't even playing their best. Like some guys on the Hawks are not even playing their best basketball yet. So I can honestly say that is a worry for the Knicks because if those guys that have been question marks in the series, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, gets it going, you have no shot. You have no shot because of the fact that Cat is not dominant in this series. And if Jalen Brunson wants to chuck up the amount of shots he can, fine. But I told you before, the most important thing is not to necessarily stop Jalen Brunson. It is to wear him down through 4 quarters. That is the most effective way to guard Jalen Brunson. It is not to stop him. It is to wear him down over a course of a game to the point where he has to make every shot is going to be difficult. That is all you have to do against a guy like him. Because Jalen Brunson, one thing he's not going to stop what he's doing. If anything, now he understands that he has to press even more because of the fact that they have lost momentum in the series. So he's gonna come out firing game 4. He's gonna come out firing. Cat is as well. The only thing the Hawks need to do is continue to run their offense, continue to play great team defense, and I think that they should be able to get them out the way in game 4.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. We thank everybody for tuning in to this episode. Of course, we'll keep you locked and loaded as the NBA playoffs continue, as baseball continues, and a full recap of our thoughts on the NFL draft coming next week once everything is concluded and the dust is settled. But for KB, I'm X, and we're saying peace.
Peace.